Thank you for watching CCN News. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and these are some of your top stories for today, January 8th, 2020. Trump says that Iran appears to be standing down and vows new economic sanctions. Iran leaves Trump an off-ramp, but will he take it? Fears of Sanders' win growing amongst Democratic establishment. The House committee invites Pompeo to testify. And let's get to our top stories. Trump says Iran appears to be standing down and vows new economic sanctions. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that Iran appears to be standing down after its ballistic missile attack on the U.S. targets in Iraq and vows to keep up pressure on Tehran with punishing new economic sanctions. Trump made these comments in an address to the nation on Wednesday from the White House less than a day after Iran fired more than a dozen ballistic missiles at two Iranian bases housing U.S. forces in retaliation to the killing of a top general. Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world, Trump added. He also went on to say that no Americans or Iraqis' lives were lost in the Iranian attack because precautions were taken. He has also called on help from NATO, who he has frequently criticized in that region. He said, and I quote, "I am going to ask NATO to become more involved in the Middle East process." However, he did not elaborate further. He also said that the Iranian nuclear deal, which he did withdraw from back in 2018, it claims that the financial incentive that was provided by the then administration of President Barack Obama to Iran under the deal, they financed the missiles that were used in the last attack. He said the missiles fired last night at us and our allies were paid for by the funds made available by the last administration, adding that Iran's hostility increased after the deal was signed back in 2015. However, Trump mischaracterized the deal that President at the time Barack Obama had brokered with Iran, claiming that the U.S. had given Iran billions. Trump said Iran under the deal was given $150 billion, not to mention $1.8 billion in cash, according to the White House transcript from his remarks. The U.S. freed up billions for Iran's own money that had been frozen for decades. They did not pay off the regime. $150 billion is also a very high-end estimate of the dollars freed by the deal, according to fact checkers. The U.S. Treasury back in 2015 estimated that it was around $50 billion, not $150 billion, and Trump also overestimated the amount of cash the U.S. gave to Iran in reconciliation of a contract dispute between the two countries over weapons Iran paid for but America did not deliver decades ago, and that was $1.7 billion, not $1.8. Trump has also called for the world powers, including the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China, to break away from the deal. With this stand down, in other news, it may leave Trump an off-ramp, but will he take it? So with nothing going on right now, and everybody sort of at a standstill, will Trump take this opportunity to de-escalate the tension in Iran, between the U.S. forces and Iran? Troops have already been deployed to the region. However, they may just be there for precaution, and hopefully everything could be de-escalated. And in other news coming out of Des Moines, Iowa, fears of Sanders' win growing among established Democrats. Increased alarm that Bernie Sanders could become their presidential nominee, establishment Democrats are warning primary voters that the self-described Democratic Socialists would suggest to defeat Donald Trump and hurt the party's chances in a premier House, Senate, and governor's races. The urge warning comes as Sanders shows new signs of strength in the ground in the first two states of the presidential primary calendar, Iowa and New Hampshire. Backed by a dominant fundraising operation, the Vermont senator has largely escaped close scrutiny over the last year, as his rival doubled the quirk's 78-year-old ability to win the nomination. But less than a month before the Iowa kickoff, the doubters are being forced to take Sanders seriously. The former Chicago mayor Rahm Emanuel, previously the senior aide to former President Barack Obama, warned Democrats that Sanders' status as a Democratic socialist and his unwavering support for Medicare for all won't win well among swing voters in the states that matter in 2020. We need a candidate with a message that can help us win the swing voters in the battleground states, Emanuel said in an interview. The degree of difficulty dramatically increased under a Bernie Sanders candidacy. The increasingly vocal concerns are coming from a number of political veterans tied to the Obama administration and the 2020 field moderate wing, including the backing of former Vice President Joe Biden and the former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg and the Colorado Senator Michael Bennet. In some ways, the criticism is not surprising. Sanders has spent decades fighting to transform the national political and economic system, creating a long list of political adversaries along the way. Many people connected to Hillary Clinton, for example, still blame Sanders for not working hard enough to support her after their long and bitter presidential primary feud back in 2016. Some Democrats still accuse him of not being enough of a team player. Okay, and that's what you have for that. So far it looks like once again, like back in 2016, Bernie Sanders' campaign started to kick up a little steam, and it started to get many of the Clinton backers quite concerned. And it looks like we're headed in the same space a little bit, even though Sanders has had a heart issue. He seems to be back picking up steam, and it's making some people in the Democratic establishment pretty nervous because, of course, they are pushing for Vice President Joe Biden. In other news, the House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Eliot Engel has asked Mike Pompeo to testify January 14th. The House Foreign Affairs Committee has invited the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, to testify on Iran at the open hearing next week. In a letter dated for Tuesday, the committee chairman, Eliot Engel, has asked Mike Pompeo to attend the hearing, which is scheduled for the 14th of this month. Engel has said that the purpose of the hearing is to conduct an oversight of the United States, Iran, and the Middle East regional strategy, including the decision to order an airstrike that killed the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani last week. And he has also said that the Democratic-led committee wants to know why the Trump administration believes it to maximize pressure campaign against Iran. Recent strikes will help bring Tehran back to the negotiating table. Many cities have called on Trump's administration to paint a clear picture of the imminent threat that was prompted by the strike against Soleimani. But response from the officials, including Pompeo, have been somewhat muddy. So once again, Mike Pompeo has been requested to testify in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We shall only see if he chooses to answer that call. And there you have it for some of your top stories for January 8th, 2020. Thank you for watching CCN News. Once again, I am your host, Captivating Christian. And as always, please be the change that you want to see. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching CCN. Peace.